For our next presentation, we take a trip into the future of clean living for a peek at changes in purchase and behaviors in the face of COVID-19. Our speaker is Greg Stucky, Chief Research Officer of InsightsNow. Greg, take it away.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining in for this wonderful presentation. We're going to be focusing on the future of clean living. We're going to take a peek at behaviors, specifically of people who are clean label enthusiasts, and we'll talk a little bit more about those people later. And we're going to be talking about what's happening in terms of behavior because of COVID-19 and what we can expect as we move forward into the future and as things continue to shift and change and we continue to see more disruption. All right, so one of the things that we are seeing with the entire area of disruption is that there are disruptions in every single category, no matter where you're at. And the reason this is happening is super obvious. It's because people have fundamentally stopped how they're moving and physically navigating the world. But, you know, the message is really don't panic. There's a lot of bad stuff, a lot of areas that are crashing, travel, automotive, entertainment, having a very hard time. But there's a lot of things that are actually doing well and albeit struggling, still doing very well, like grocery, pharma, and healthcare. And we're going to focus in on the grocery aspect and the CPG aspect of that in today's talk. And we're going to be focusing in on a group of people that are responsible essentially for the current clean living growth that's been really rapidly happening over the last 5 years. It's started nascent about 10 years ago, and now in this last 5 years, it's grown really rapidly. And we see numbers from this last fall, which we're looking at 2020, saying that global sales of clean label food products expected to reach $180 billion by 2020. Now with COVID, actually, that's going to ramp up. We're probably going to beat that number probably pretty handedly, actually. And really, one of the things that's underlying that big growth is clean label ingredients. So it's getting away from the artificial ingredient, getting away from, quote, chemical sounding or reading as a chemical type of an ingredient in the product. So with that movement happening and with COVID going, one of the questions we have is, how do we start addressing this? Well, what we're seeing is the people responsible for this are those folks who are really interested, whose behaviors tie to clean label products, who tie to making changes in their diet, making changes in the types of products they purchase across the board to make themselves healthier. And so we've built a group of people who we call clean label enthusiasts. And here's some of the characteristics of them. Number one, ingredients matter to them, right? And ingredients affect what they buy. So they might not buy things with high fructose corn syrup, or they might not buy things with GMOs. They're concerned that there's too many chemicals in foods. Their behavior is that they are much more common to be reading the list of ingredients, and even if they're not flipping over a package to read the actual ingredient statement, they're looking for ingredients on the cover of a package as well. They do homework. They like to look up information and read about ingredients in foods and beverages. They like reading articles. They like talking to their doctor. They like talking to dietitians, nutritionists, et cetera, so forth, about types of ingredients that matter, how it makes them, is it good for them, bad for them, et cetera, so forth. And then from a shopping standpoint, they are avoiding brands if those brands are bringing out products that they deem unhealthy in any shape or form. So we're going to take a poll. We have a nice typing tool that we use to identify people that have the clean label behavior, but I want to take a poll. So how many of you think, now that you understand who a clean label enthusiast is and how they're basically categorized, how many of you think that you are a clean label enthusiast versus how many of you think, nah, that's not me. I'm not really a clean label enthusiast. And I'm curious to see what the distribution is in this group, because I'm going to show you what the distribution is on a global level, country by country. So take a moment, jump in, there's a poll on the screen here, and love to see what these numbers are going to be looking like. I'll give you just one more second, get those answers in, and then we're going to jump to the results here. All right, so we're looking at this. Very interesting. We're seeing almost 2/3 of people at the moment are say, yep, that's me, I'm a clean label enthusiast versus not. So we actually have a very clean label oriented group. That's quite interesting. All right, so that is not the same as much of the world. So back in October, before COVID, we've been monitoring percentages of clean label enthusiasts around the world for a while now. But back in 2019, we took a look. That was the last data point, essentially, before COVID really started to take over. And you can see that it varies greatly across the world, the percentage of people that are clean label enthusiasts. But you can see some patterns, cultural patterns, right? North America, Europe in the high 20s, low 30s. Whereas South America, Central America, and then the Asian countries, much more up in that 50+% range of people who are having the clean label-oriented behaviors. Now, what's interesting is we just finished off a piece of research recapping this, where we're looking at then the percentage of clean label enthusiasts now. Now, what's been happening is that in the United States, clean label enthusiasts have been growing very rapidly. And what we see as we've now jumped into COVID is that COVID hasn't really changed people's general sense around what they believe, but we're continuing to see that North American growth. So now we're up from the high 20s to low 30s. It wasn't but 2 years ago that we were all the way down at 15% clean label enthusiasts in the United States. So COVID is starting to fuel, not hinder, the clean label phenomena. And why do we think that is? Because when we're concerned about our health, when we're concerned and have all these fears about staying healthy, staying safe from a disease, we're going to be much more focused on making sure that the products we put inside our bodies are indeed aligning with those fears, or certainly we're going to avoid certain things that we think may put us more at risk. So our research that I'm going to be talking about is coming from two different behavioral studies. The one I just showed you a few data points from came from our primary shopper attitudes and behavior study. It's a general population of primary shoppers. It covers 10 countries. It's a biannual survey on clean living related behaviors and attitudes. The second study I'm going to be pulling information from into this presentation is from our ongoing CLE tracker. So this is tracking just clean label enthusiasts within the United States. It's a weekly survey and conversations about behaviors and attitudes, and topical deep dives into specific areas where we think are important to help open up and understand what's going on for people in the United States, to help us understand what real impact to behavior COVID is having on us. So one of the things we know for sure, right, is that COVID is changing shopping and how we shop. So if you look at just one of the simple metrics and a simple behavior, which is in-person online shopping or in-person shopping in stores versus online shopping for your groceries. And if you look at just the data for people who are saying this week, this was the way I shopped most often, this gives a little bit different picture than if you just say, did you shop that way at all? What you can see is that people adopting this as their primary method of shopping, you can see that online shopping is going up and is just now starting to level off, and it will probably continue that way for a little while. Whereas the in-person, in-store has come down. So it's a 15% drop in number of people who are shopping primarily online for groceries versus in store. And you can see that that's a pretty significant increase when you consider that only 9% of people had that as their primary mode of shopping before, or the online shopping was only 9% as their primary mode before COVID started. So a pretty significant shift. So to understand why this is happening, why do people care about this? It's not just safety. It's not just that they can't get to the grocery store because the stores are open. It's not like you can't go shop them. But what is really underlying it? So in order to understand that, we're going to take a little bit of time and talk science. So behaviors change when our motivations change. And one of the things that we know is that our behaviors are intrinsically tied to how we feel, right? So if you are anticipating something that is a fearful experience, you're going to be more likely to avoid it. So in the short term, when disruptions happen, we tend to avoid things. In the long term, we start to look for things that we want to do that are new. So right now, what are we in, right? We're in the short term. We're avoiding things more than we are trying to do something that's new. Now, to understand emotions is a pretty broad topic, and motivations there's lots and lots of different types of motivations. To help understand and apply all of the complexity of the science around motivations and emotions, one simple way to look at it is the 4 classifications that we can put these into. So you can have a functional driver, you can have a social driver, psychological, or a sensorial driver. But functional drivers and functional motivators are really central to how everyone feels when they have their basic human needs being met or unmet. So this is safety, protection, health, feeling prepared. Think if you're, in remembering your psychology, think Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Functional is the foundation. Second to that is, all right, the second area. So functional is our foundation. That's our base. Social motivators are those things where we're looking at changes to relationships, peer-to-peer social relationships, who we trust, our feeling towards others. When it comes to buying products, this is buying products that we think other people will feel value in as well. Sensorial motivators, this is when we're looking at things that will create pleasure for us, right? And in terms of sensory and COVID, this is a lot about how our coping mechanisms work. The final piece is the psychological motivators. These are important when people are needing to achieve balance in their life, right? So this is a significant mood change, right? You go through mood changes all the time in life, but when we're looking at COVID, these are going to be sustained moods of long-term boredom, long-term comfort seeking. Those types of behavior are tied into what are our psychological motivators. Okay. If you lay these out over time and we look at how COVID is laying, we've got a big time of disruption, all the sheltering in place happened. We're going to go through a time of adjustment. We'll be following that with a time of recovery, and then we'll have at some point a new normal, whatever that looks like. It's going to be years plus before we get to that point. But if you overlay our core motivators and the emotions on that, you're going to see that right now we're in this, just coming in this time of disruption where we still have a lot of fear, worry, disappointment. There's some anger out there. Good news, most brands have avoided anger towards them. People are feeling disappointed. They're starting to seek comfort as we get into the month of May and the first part of June. We're going to see more and more comfort seeking happening. So we've got all of this momentum moving, and if we take a look at the numbers for motivations and we look at purchases that people are making and we're asking them what are the core motivators behind making that specific purchase for different types of products that they're putting in their shopping basket, what we find is that right now, right at the beginning of COVID, when all the shelter in place happened, 84% of the purchases were being made for functional reasons. Basically, it's that classic stock up, need to make sure I have it, want to feel safe. 24% were around social. A lot of that was due to the fact that all of a sudden the home environment was drastically changed. Lots more meals at home, which means a lot more people enjoying those meals. So you were a little bit more attentive to the social needs in your home and in your small group environment, in your tribe. Sensorial and psychological motivations were almost non-existent, right? Just a very small amount of the purchases attributed to anything that was sensorial or psychological. As we get into the end of April, functional is still the primary. Social still there because all the shelter in places are still there. Some, right, as we were getting this data, shelter in places were just starting to get relaxed in some locations, but not others. But sensorial is starting to go up because people are going through now, have had an entire month to 5 weeks in this environment of shelter, and they're starting to look for a few more sensorial pieces. And psychological is starting to drive up because they're now comfort seeking more and more and more, and they're looking to switch their mood from fear to comfort. So that is where we're at right now. As we continue out, what we can expect in the next month to 2 months is that functional and social will still be about the same. Social really isn't going to change from this level until we start seeing more bigger events, big social gatherings being allowed. We're going to get a little bit of a bump probably as summertime takes over and people are starting to feel a little more comfortable letting people come over for barbecues and things like that. It won't be that big. Sensorial, however, this is going to change now and going to continue to go up, and psychological will continue to rise as we go over time. So what does that mean? If you're an innovator, if you're a manufacturer, right now and the next few months are really good times to get your line extensions in where they're focused on sensorial opportunities. And several months down the road is going to be a time when we're going to make a switch where psychological, brand new to the world innovations will be sought out when our fears and our worries are at a little lower level. All right, so let's take a look at some of the specific emotions and understand what's going on. So COVID, of course, impacted shopping immediately. It went from nobody feeling frustrated really when they shopped to about half the people saying, wow, I'm really frustrated trying to shop at that first week of April. And as we came down over time, we're getting back about to normal, right? Not quite, still some frustrations, but people are starting to figure it out, right? Took them a little bit of time to figure out how to manage the new timelines of getting products shipped, of how to manage the time of going to the store enough or figuring out if the store was going to have what I need in stock to go pick it up, et cetera. But it took about a month to get there. We're close. Feeling rushed has got a very similar pattern. We're going to see a bump in feeling rushed because people are stocked up at the beginning of April, and as they get into May, all of a sudden they're realizing they don't have it, and they're also going to be realizing it's going to take a little while to get it. It might not be readily available, so they're going to feel really rushed again as they try to get ahead of the game a little bit more. Now worry, on the other hand, worry is going to stay at a pretty high level, a reasonably high level for a while. And it's going to jump up and down quite a bit as new endeavors get put in place, right? So as more people are comfortable and you show up at grocery stores and there's more people who are even more worried, as news articles come out about the next thing you have to be worried about not touching, worry is going to go up again. Anything that's related to fear creation within, especially coming from the news media, is going to drive a lot of the worry. And we're probably not going to get back to no worry for shopping for quite a period of time here until we stop having the requirement of face masks, until we stop having the 6-foot rule, et cetera. Worry is going to stay at a reasonable level. Another really good metric to look at in terms of shopping is that relaxed as an emotion. And relaxed is very much tied to feeling safe. You can see that prior to COVID, most people felt relaxed. And there's kind of two groups of people when it comes to shoppers. Those that really enjoy shopping, and when they go shopping, it's a relaxing experience. And the other group of people that just want to get out of the store as fast as they can. That was true before COVID. Now we don't have very many people that just enjoy hanging out in the store and shopping. And if you do, it's just for a moment in time where you're standing in the aisle, nobody else is in the aisle with you. You feel relaxed for a moment, but somebody turns the corner, comes down your aisle, and you're like, okay, I got to get out of here. it's a connection to safety. And until people feel relaxed again, you're not going to see a newfound sense of exploration of new products happen again. So it's going to take a while to get to that point. Okay. Satisfaction in what you're picking and choosing. People are learning to adapt, and this is really what's happening. Products go out of stock. You can't get the one you want, so you have to adapt to something new. And when you adapt to something new, it takes about a month for you to start to adapt. This is going to come back down again. People are going to start to get dissatisfied again because they're going to have more time with the products that they're unhappy with. Also, what's going to happen is at the beginning of every month, people are going to shop more and for things that they're out of stock of. So you're going to see this cycle of in stock, out of stock, in stock, out of stock. So you'll see a little bit of a monthly pattern coming to something like satisfaction in shopping as well. So what does this all mean? The future of clean living. Health halos are going to really motivate our choices going forward. So anything that you can do to bring health to your brand is going to help. Plant-based products are going to gain new rapid adoption, and sustainability is going to reaccelerate, but probably in a way you didn't expect. So if you're looking at ways to improve products and take on the clean living area during this time of COVID, what you need to do is find your health halo. You need to find your brand's health halo to help motivate that behavior. And we see that focusing on health is continuing. So both with the non-clean label enthusiasts, so those are the people who are not clean label, as well as the ones who are clean label enthusiasts, both of them are going up in terms of I'm going to go out of my way to find products that make me feel healthy because I'm worried about my health. We're not seeing massive change in this, but it's consistent, steady growth. And that's a good thing. That means that this is not going to go away when COVID goes away. You're going to see consistent, steady growth. So if you can find your health halo, it's going to stay around for a while. It's going to be a good position. Same thing with ingredient-specific seeking behavior. You see that same exact pattern. Clean label enthusiasts were already all about ingredients, but we're seeing that pick up in the non-clean label enthusiasts as well. People seeking out specific ingredients. So if you have a great ingredient in your product, you should be calling it out. You should be calling it to people's attention. If you start looking at claims and things you can talk about, things you want to put in your products, fresh and natural are leading the way, no artificial, and then price-value trade-off is going to still be a thing, right? We still have a lot of people who are concerned about price. In fact, this is diversifying a little bit more than we've had in the past. For specific claims you might be able to call out, good sources of vitamins, minerals, big jump post-COVID. Good source of protein, a big increase post-COVID. And then you can also see immune support jumps. That's pretty much expected. That will probably come back down as COVID concerns start to go away. But certainly vitamins, minerals, proteins, we're expecting that to go. Increased energy is an interesting one, specifically contextualized around the stay at home because people are needing more energy as they do less work. Now, as we jump into other areas that we can focus on, plant-based options. You can really accelerate your growth if you've got plant-based options right now. And there's a couple of interesting reasons for this. Number one, plant-based was already on the rise. It was already one of the biggest trends. And as people went into COVID and took all the fresh meat away, one of the things that was left for people to start trying was plant-based. So all of a sudden, plant-based meats, as an example, took a pretty quick jump. But plant-based dairy was already on the rise. And even seafood, which is one of the newer comers to the plant-based arena, is starting to see some upticks due to COVID. Now, COVID's also going to cause meat shortages. And whether it's true meat shortages or just the fear of meat shortages, it doesn't matter to the consumer what the truth is behind it. But we certainly see all the news stations putting out media around the concern, will there be meat shortages? Will there not be meat shortages? And when meat is in short supply, it gives the opportunity to say, well, if it's because the processing plants are down and we can't process, maybe this plant-based product will be a great thing to try and have as an alternative. So no matter the truth around the science and the manufacturing and the distribution of this, the consumer mindset and those people in the clean living movement that were already wanting products that were better for them, cleaner, these plant-based products, plant-based meats especially, and plant-based milks especially, all come with a strong health halo. So they're taking advantage of both a fear of shortage and a positive outlook on how to keep myself healthy. So we're going to see a pretty solid increase in trial in this area, and we've already started to see it, and it's going to continue to grow. And the other indicator that says that this is going to really matter is because even though people are worried about price, plant-based meats are one of the things that they're actually willing to pay more for. And so you've only got 15% of the people saying I'd pay less for that. This is on a global scale, but I can tell you country by country, the numbers are pretty similar to this. The distribution holds pretty well across the countries. Okay. So you've got the same or more for a product during a time when a lot of people are still cash strapped. So this is a really strong indicator that it's going to be moving forward with pretty good momentum. Now, the final piece is sustainability. Now, sustainability is also one of those things that really didn't take a very strong hit due to COVID, but it is changing in its structure. So there's going to be a sustainability momentum that's going to increase. There are some areas that are going to have problems with terms of sustainability, but by and large, everybody's concerns around like sustainable packaging really wasn't affected by COVID. If anything, maybe a tiny bit less concerned about sustainability because, well, you get what you get as long as it's safe. And sometimes you just have to, your first choice of sustainable isn't really there. So not a whole lot of change there. Again, also avoidance behaviors are pretty much the same. There is a little bit of an increase during COVID of avoiding specific products in that packaging material, but not like it was before where people were avoiding the growth of avoiding the brand entirely, i.e. if your brand was associated with a non-sustainable product, any one product in your line was non-sustainable, they'd start taking your brand out of their basket set. So not a whole lot of changes here. But there is a very, very dramatic change in trade-offs that people are willing to make. And this should be an obvious thing, obvious data, if you will, to most people. If we ask people, what would you trade? Would you rather take care of the environment, even if it made the virus last longer? Or would you want more people to be safe, even if you had to sacrifice the environment? People went for safety. Not a surprise. But what does this mean for the environmental movement? What this really means is that instead of saying save the planet, the conversation is going to switch to save the people through sustainability and recycling. So if you are focused on sustainability in your company, you need to be able to switch the conversation from the planet and taking care of the environment to taking care of the people and making the people the focus, not the planet the focus. And that's going to be a dramatic shift in the way everybody talks about sustainability, and that will last for a long time. And once we do that, that's going to shift people's desire for sustainable products into the positive much more. Now, there are some areas where you're probably not going to see quite as big a shift, and that's going to be in cleaning products. So out of all of the people who were buying sustainable cleaning products prior to COVID, 27% continued to buy. Only 27% continued to buy, right? 36% bought products that were just completely not earth-friendly at all in their opinion. And of that 36%, only 65% are going back. So that means we're going to get about a 10, maybe 15% drop in purchases of sustainable cleaning products. And it's not that big of a drop, but it's just big enough. So if you're in this space, you really need to focus in on understanding what is it about that product that makes you ensure that it's going to kill the virus, that it's going to for sure be 100% deadly, if you will. And that's what people's concerns are. This quote, I think, sums it up really, really well, why people are leaving, the small group of people are leaving. It's that all the experts are saying, hey, chlorine bleach, which isn't good for the environment, you got to have that. Or you got to have something that for sure is going to kill this virus. So you're upping the stakes from just being clean to killing something. And that shift is grabbing a group of people's attention, and the environmental products, friendly products that can make these types of claims are going to succeed. Those that can't are going to start to see some drops. All right, so the future of clean living. A little sneak peek into the future. What does it hold? Number one, health halos are going to heavily motivate people's choices. Number two, plant-based products are going to gain some rapid adoption. And three, sustainability is going to reaccelerate, but it's going to reaccelerate by focusing on people, not the planet, which is a pretty significant shift in communication. So the questions you can ask for your business: what health halos are going to most motivate your consumers? How can you increase trust in your brand that you are providing for people's functional needs, for their social needs, for their sensorial needs, for their psychological desires to shift into this sense of comfort? How can you identify those pieces? And then what sustainable opportunities do you have for your brands that you can bring to bear in the market? How can you help change the conversation from the planet to the people? I think in conclusion, this quote is one of my favorites. It sums it up. Things are going to be different and a little bit weird, but we got this, right? Don't panic. Everything's going to be okay. Different is okay. Different is better. And really, we're not going to see a lot of changes. We're not going to go back to normal in the next few months. We're not going to go back to normal in the next year. It's going to take a while for us to get our emotions and our motivations switched back. And what that new normal is definitely will not be the same as what we were pre-COVID. All right. And if you have any time now, is the time for questions.
Yes, we do have questions, and 3 or 4 of them. And the first one is, are there ethnic breaks for the shopping mode changes and in general for your research on changes in COVID consumer behavior?
That is a great question. We haven't drilled down into the ethnic breaks. What we do know is that it is a little bit different based on where you live in terms of like urban, suburban, rural areas, where the types of shopping that you have available and the access that you have for ease of picking up products at store, things like that. It's definitely different there. It's also different based on what cities you're in. If you're in a really highly locked down city, there's certainly more fear at the moment, and so some of the changes in shopping behavior are different. We know that certain areas like California, Oregon, a lot more online shopping happening in those, and some of the coastal states, a lot less online shopping happening in the Midwest at the moment. So some things like that, but nothing, I don't know of anything that we have ethnic-wise.
Okay, next question. How is worry and shopping drivers going to be impacted by the highest level of unemployment or underemployment during recovery?
Right. So what's interesting is that this is where the price-value trade-off is coming. Is going to be really, really important for people. So there is, if we think about the emotional aspect of it, there's a make-do process. So as you're, if you think about a specific person, and I like always to think about it from a humanized way. If you think about a person who became unemployed, now they have a totally different income construction to their budget that they can apply. That's going to stay for a while, right? It's not like they're going to suddenly get a job and then not, right? So until a major disruption happens, they're going to change what they consider price value. And they're going to be looking at which sacrifices are they satisfied with making versus which ones they're not. And what you're going to see is, by and large, they're going to be forced into an area where the where there's high unemployment, you're going to get more uptick of the price value products, certainly on a percentage basis for a while. But you're going to see the more indulgent products not have as much of a problem, if you will, or you'll see indulgent products go through spikes where people really crave them, need them, and go get them regardless of the unemployment level. So a little bit depends on how the economy as a whole is going to do.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Greg. It's certainly going to be a brave new world. Okay, for further questions and more information on this topic, absolutely. For more information on this topic or for other questions, you can reach out to Greg directly. His contact information is on the screen, and his phone number, too. You can email him or call him.
Yes.
Interesting presentation, Greg. Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And a lot of this data is available on this website. We have a tracker. You can go ahead and go on the website, look for this specific tracker, and so you can see all this information. You can see it. We'll be posting it week by week as we get information. We'll be posting new stuff there. So if you're curious, go on, look. There's even, since this presentation I put it together, there's more new information just from this last week.
Excellent. Okay, InsightsNow.com. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.